He had the looks, the job, and the heart, but every woman who entered his life left within weeks. Just when he gave up on love completely, something unexpected happened in a quiet little cafe. What could make someone finally stay when everyone else walked away? Stay tuned because you are about to watch a story filled with love, strength, and acceptance. Hello, family. Welcome to Storytime Virtually. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interesting stories. Like and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Your support and engagement encourage me to post more videos. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. In the center of the busy city of Chicago, where tall buildings stretched into the clouds and people hurried through life without looking back, lived a man named Noah Bennett. Noah was 35 years old. He was tall, smart, and handsome. He had deep brown eyes, a calm voice, and a gentle smile. On the outside, Noah looked like the kind of man every woman would want. He worked as an architect, one of the best in the city. He designed tall skyscrapers and beautiful homes. He wore nice suits, drove a clean car, and lived in a well-furnished apartment. But Noah had one big problem. His manhood was too large. It might sound like a joke to some. Some men might even be proud. But for Noah, it was a painful truth that had ruined every relationship he had ever been in. At first, women would admire his looks and charm. They would fall for his gentle voice and deep thinking. But once they became intimate, the problems began. The first one, Melissa, had cried in the middle of the night after their first time. "Noah, I can't handle this," she said. She left the next morning. The second one, Trisha, lasted 2 weeks. She didn't say much, just slowly stopped answering his calls. One woman even told him, "You're kind, but this isn't normal. It hurts. I feel sore all the time. I'm sorry. I can't do this." The worst heartbreak came from Erica, a woman he almost married. They were engaged for 3 weeks. She was kind, sweet, and thoughtful. But one night, she placed her engagement ring on the kitchen counter with a handwritten note that said, "You are everything I prayed for. But your body, I can't pretend I'm okay. It's too much. I love you, but I'm not strong enough to live like this." Noah didn't cry often, but that night, he wept alone. From that moment on, he made a decision. No more relationships. No more hopes. No more heartbreak. He would focus on his work and live alone. At least buildings didn't judge him. Designs didn't walk out on him. He became more successful. His company grew. He won awards. Clients trusted him. On the outside, people saw a man who had it all. But at night, in his silent apartment, Noah sat by the window and stared at the stars, wondering if there would ever be someone strong enough, gentle enough, and willing enough to stay. Then one morning, something unexpected happened. Noah was walking back from a construction site meeting in Lincoln Park. The air was cool, and the streets were buzzing with morning traffic. As he passed by a small street cafe, something caught his eye. Inside, standing behind the counter, was a woman. She wore a simple brown apron and had her long, curly black hair tied loosely behind her. Her smile was soft but bright. She looked like someone who didn't rush life, someone who took her time to understand things. Her name tag read Zara. He paused. He didn't know why, but something about her drew him in. Maybe it was the calm in her eyes. Maybe it was the way she spoke kindly to an old man buying tea. He walked in. "Good morning," she said, smiling. "What can I get for you?" "Just a coffee." "Black," he replied, trying not to stare. She nodded and started making the coffee. "You look like you've had a long morning." Noah chuckled. "A long life, actually." Zara laughed softly. "Well, here's something to help you keep going," she said, handing him the coffee. Their fingers touched briefly. It felt warm, safe. Noah took a sip and smiled. "That's the best coffee I've had in years." "You're welcome to come back tomorrow," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. As he stepped out of the cafe, he turned back and looked through the window. She was still there, smiling, working, moving gently, like the world wasn't rushing her. And just like that, for the first time in many lonely years, hope whispered into his heart again. Noah couldn't stop thinking about Zara. That evening, while sitting alone on his balcony, he replayed her smile in his mind, the way her eyes lit up when she laughed, the gentle way she handed him the coffee. It had been just one short moment, but something about it felt different. It wasn't love at first sight. It was something softer, deeper, peace. The next morning, without planning to, he found himself walking back toward that same cafe. He checked his watch. It was 8:42 a.m. Too early? He thought. But his feet kept moving. When he entered the cafe, the little bell above the door jingled, and Zara looked up from behind the counter. Her face brightened with surprise. "You came back," she said. Noah smiled. "You said the coffee helps keep going. I figured I'd need another cup." Zara laughed. "Well, I'm glad you listened." He sat at a small corner table near the window. She brought over his coffee personally. "Black, no sugar, right?" "You remembered?" he asked. "I always remember the people who look like they carry a heavy heart," she replied softly. Noah looked at her for a moment. Not many people notice things like that. She didn't ask too many questions. She didn't push. But she stayed close, chatting about small things, the weather, the music playing softly in the background, her cousin who helped run the cafe, and how she came to Chicago after a bad relationship in Boston. Noah listened carefully. She wasn't just beautiful. She was real. She didn't pretend to be perfect. She didn't act like she had it all together. And that made her even more attractive. After finishing his coffee, he stood to leave, but paused by the door. "Zara, thank you," he said. "For what?" "For not rushing through life." She smiled. "Come back again. Some people just need a place to breathe." For the next few days, Noah returned to the cafe every morning. Sometimes he stayed for only 10 minutes, sometimes longer. They talked about their favorite books, movies, and dreams. He learned she loved painting but hadn't touched a brush in months. She learned he designed buildings but didn't enjoy being called a successful man. "I just build places," he said once. "But I've never built a real home." That made her pause. One afternoon, as she cleaned the tables, she turned to him and asked, "Do you live alone?" He nodded. "For a long time now." "No girlfriend?" she asked gently. He shook his head. "Not anymore." She didn't ask why. Instead, she sat beside him, sipping her tea. For Noah, that moment was big. He had spoken to many women in the past. But this was the first time in years he felt seen, not as a man with a reputation or success, but as someone human. The following Friday evening, as she locked up the cafe, Noah was waiting outside. She looked surprised. "Still here?" "I was wondering," he began. "Would you like to have dinner with me sometime? Just to talk more." Away from the coffee machine. Zara smiled softly and nodded. "I'd like that." And just like that, something began, not rushed, not forced. Just two people who found peace in each other's company, walking gently into something new. But deep inside, Noah still held a fear. What if she also leaves once she finds out the truth? That weekend, Noah and Zara met for dinner at a quiet rooftop restaurant just above the Riverwalk. The sky was clear, the lights from the buildings sparkled like stars, and the sound of the city below felt far away. Zara wore a simple light blue gown, her curly hair tied back gently. Noah wore a gray blazer over a white shirt. He couldn't stop staring at her. Not just because of how she looked, but because of how safe he felt around her. Over dinner, they talked about their childhoods, favorite memories, and personal dreams. Zara spoke about how she wanted to open her own art gallery one day. Noah shared how he sometimes felt empty even when he finished a big building project. Zara tilted her head. "You build so much, yet you sound lonely." He sighed. "That's because no one has ever stayed long enough to fill the spaces I build." She looked into his eyes, but didn't ask more. She respected silence when it came with pain. After dinner, he walked her home. When they reached the cafe, she smiled and said, "Tonight was peaceful. I felt like I could just be myself." "Me too," he said quietly. She gave him a gentle hug, and for a moment, he didn't want to let go. The next week, they saw each other more. Walks in the park, movies at his place, late-night calls. laughter over spilled coffee, and soft conversations under city lights. But the closer they grew, the heavier Noah's secret became. Every time he looked at her, he asked himself the same question. Can I tell her? Will she stay? One evening, while they were sitting on his couch after watching a film, Zara laid her head on his shoulder. Noah, she said softly, I know you're hiding something. You don't have to rush, but when you're ready, I'm here. He froze. He had never told anyone this part of himself before intimacy. But something about her patience gave him courage. He took a deep breath. Zara, there's something you need to know. She sat up gently, giving him her full attention. I've had many relationships, he began slowly. But none of them lasted. Not because of who I am as a person, but because of something physical. Something I have no control over. Zara stayed quiet, letting him speak. My manhood is extremely large. And for most women, it becomes too painful, too uncomfortable. They leave. They always leave. Even the one I almost married. Zara's face didn't change. She listened, without judgment. I've been rejected so many times, Zara, he continued. Not because I was unkind, but because my body scared them. And I'm afraid you'll leave too. There was silence in the room. Then she reached for his hand. Noah, she said quietly, I can't promise what will happen tomorrow. But I can promise this. I'm not here to hurt you. I don't run from things just because they're hard. I stay when I believe something is worth it. His eyes welled up. No one had ever said those words to him before. I want to take things slow, she added, but I'm not going anywhere. A few nights later, they decided to take that step. Noah was careful, more than he had ever been. He was gentle, constantly checking in, making sure Zara felt safe. She held onto him tightly, her breathing slow but deep. It wasn't easy. She winced a few times. But she didn't cry. She didn't stop. And most importantly, she didn't leave. The next morning, Zara moved slowly, rubbing her lower back. I feel a bit sore, she admitted with a half smile, but it's okay. You're sure? Noah asked, worry in his voice. She looked at him with soft eyes. Yes. I've been through worse in life. This I can handle because you're worth it. That day, Noah stood on his balcony, staring out at the city. For the first time in many years, someone knew the truth. And she was still here. As days passed, their love grew. They started spending more time together, cooking, shopping at the local market, visiting bookstores, and watching sunsets by the lake. Sometimes Zara would still feel slight discomfort, but she never made Noah feel guilty. They both began to learn each other in new ways. Noah adjusted himself more than ever before. He became even more patient, more careful, more intentional with how he touched her, how he loved her. And Zara? She became stronger. She even started reading about body care, stretching exercises, and how to stay relaxed physically. It was not just about surviving, it was about growing into something powerful together. One afternoon, while Zara was working in the café, her ex-boyfriend, Damien, walked in. He was tall, flashy, and full of pride. The moment he saw her, he smirked. Zara, he said loudly. Wow. Didn't think I'd find you here. Still making coffee. She smiled politely. Yes. This is my place now. He leaned on the counter. So, I heard about your new guy. The architect with the he gave a rude hand gesture and chuckled. Zara's smile dropped. Damien, please. He laughed again. Come on, Zara. You really want to live your life sore and limping because of that man? Be serious. She leaned forward, her voice calm but firm. Noah is more of a man than you'll ever be. He's kind. He listens. He respects me. Something you never did. Damien's face stiffened. You walked away from real love because you were weak, she added. I walked into something deeper because I chose strength. With that, she turned and walked into the kitchen. The other customers in the cafe pretended not to listen, but a few nodded in silent respect. That night, she told Noah everything. I don't regret anything, she said, sitting on his lap as they relaxed on the couch. Let them laugh. Let them talk. They don't know what we're building. Noah held her tightly. Thank you for standing up for me. For us. She kissed his forehead.
We're not ordinary, Noah.
But who said love had to be? Weeks passed. Zara picked up her paintbrush again after almost 2 years. Noah found himself designing not just buildings, but a new vision for life, with her in it. One evening, they sat on a picnic mat by the lake. The sky was orange and pink. Zara rested her head on Noah's chest. You still think I'll leave? She whispered. Noah shook his head. Not anymore. She smiled and whispered back. Good. Because I've already chosen to stay, even on the hard days. Noah kissed the top of her head and whispered, Then we've already won. A year later, life had changed beautifully for both Noah and Zara. Noah was no longer just the successful architect who hid behind his work. Now he was a man who smiled more often, loved deeply, and had someone beside him who believed in him. Zara had become more than the woman at the cafe. She was his peace, his strength, and his closest friend. She painted again. She laughed freely. And every morning, when Noah opened his eyes and saw her beside him, he thanked God for the day he walked into her cafe. That evening, Noah stood inside Zara's cafe after closing hours. The lights were dim, candles were placed on each table, and soft jazz played in the background. Zara walked in from the back, wiping her hands. Why is the cafe looking like a movie scene? She asked, smiling. Noah took her hand and gently led her to the middle of the room. He looked into her eyes and said, Do you remember the first time I walked in here? She nodded. You looked tired.
Sad.
Like someone carrying a heavy weight. I was, he said. But I found something here I didn't expect. I found you. Zara smiled, but Noah's hands were already reaching into his jacket pocket. He brought out a small velvet box and slowly went down on one knee. Her hands went to her mouth as tears filled her eyes. No one believed I would ever find someone who would stay, he said. Not even me. I've been left so many times that I stopped trying. But you didn't just stay. You grew with me. You carried me. You chose love, even when it wasn't easy. Tears rolled down her cheeks as he opened the box. Zara, will you marry me? She didn't speak. She just dropped to her knees too, hugging him tightly and whispering, Yes. 1,000 times yes. Months later, they had a quiet wedding in a botanical garden just outside the city. Only close friends and family were there. There were no loud celebrations, just soft music, flowers, and smiles that spoke louder than words. Zara wore a simple white gown with flowers in her hair. Noah wore a dark blue suit and couldn't take his eyes off her. I never thought I'd have this, he said as they danced under the trees. I never thought I'd find someone who makes pain feel small, she replied. Years passed, and their love never faded. They opened a second cafe downtown and donated part of the profit to women's health charities. Noah kept designing, but now he designed homes, not just buildings. Real homes, with warmth and light and love. Sometimes Zara would still feel a little sore after their nights together. She would stretch, rub her lower back, and smile. Still got it, she would joke, and they'd both laugh. But she never complained. Never once made him feel like he was a problem. Because she had learned to love all of him, and he had learned how to love her back, fully and gently. One evening, they sat on their balcony, watching the city lights. Zara rested her head on his shoulder. You remember when you thought no one would stay? He nodded, smiling.
Yeah.
I remember. She looked up at him and whispered, You were never the problem, Noah. You just hadn't met someone strong enough to be your match. He kissed her gently. And now I know you were made for me. And in that quiet city night, a man who once believed he was too different to be loved finally found the one who was not afraid of how big his love was. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, kindly subscribe to my channel, like, and share to your friends and loved ones. Also comment what you feel about the story under the comment section. Thanks for watching.